Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest feists to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game.
I know you've got quite a few world champions.
Yeah, I've been blessed. God's definitely showed me favor on owning a lot of good ones and training a lot of good ones. And I'll go into a little bit on, from owning mediocre to figuring out, hey, it's just as cheap to own a good one,
Yeah.
And I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, let's just roll right into this.
Okay.
You said your dad and your uncle got you started?
Yeah, my dad was an avid houndsman, and he had hounds, but he also had cur dogs, and he liked to squirrel hunt and coon hunt. And I had two uncles, my Uncle Bob and my Uncle Ed, which was ironic because Bob was my mom's brother and Ed was my dad's brother.
Okay.
And they both lived in the town of Metamore, which is just a couple towns over from where we lived. And both of them were avid dog men and kind of what me and you would consider dog traders.
Yeah.
They'd have a lot of dogs tied to a lot of boxes. And
Yep.
my dad would go to church there in that town, Metamore. And when I was a little boy, I would beg Dad, just let me stay with them while you're at church. And sometimes he would cave and drop me off, and I would spend a few hours with my uncles and go around and help them with their dogs, and maybe even take a short hunt. And of course, when I was about 10 to 12, and Dad brought home a mountain cur from Tennessee or Kentucky. I can't remember which place, but it was a red, long-tailed mountain cur, slick-haired, probably 45, 50-pound dog, what he ended up being. But he was 6 months old when Dad purchased him, and we had a big farm. We had a dairy farm way out in the country, and Dad said, keep him tied up a couple weeks, and then we'll let him run loose. And I remember the day getting off the bus and walking up the long lane, me and my brother, and walking in, and Dad said, boys, I believe that red cur's treed down there across the street, which was our property too. And we grabbed our rifles and ran across the field and into the woods, and there he sat on his rear end, treeing up, and had a gray squirrel.
Nice.
And that was the start of my cur dog life. And I was just thrilled to watch a dog tree from then on. And then my uncle, had got a lot of age on him, Uncle Ed, and he ended up moving in with us. He was like 81, 82 years old. And he moved in and brought his dogs along. So then me and him would, we would rabbit hunt, squirrel hunt, coon hunt.
There you go.
And it become an addiction.
Yeah.
And I grew up a few years there, didn't really have a dog per se that, kind of when you go through those teenage courting years and then once I got a little bit more settled, I got back into the hounds, and then, got a few curs and had some decent ones, but I never really had, what I would call a competition style dog. And I finally ran into one, got him as a puppy, and worked on him, trained him.
Well, hang on. Before you even tell us this dog's name, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. I'm Merle Seeley. I live in Connersville, Indiana.
Thank you, Merle. So now, What's this dog that you picked up?
I picked up a little dog. I called him Max, and I got him off of Johnny Parrott, and he was a non-registered, just a cur dog, and just hunted him, and he become what I thought was something special, and I started investigating to find out what he was because he didn't have any papers, and tracked down where he had come from, and he was half black mouth cur, and his mommy was a streak bred female.
Okay.
And he was really one of the first, what I call, above average squirrel coon dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started going to a few NKC hunts, and I did hound hunts, but I never really did the squirrel hunts.
Yeah.
Started going to a few of those, and I would place with him. He was a nice dog, but there was this dog that kept every hunt I would go to. Just about, there was this one in particular dog that would just end up winning, and Johnny Parrott owned her, and her name was Saints Creek Rosa.
Okay.
And she was a trained cur out of Melvin Westerman's stock of dogs.
Yep. For anyone listening that's not familiar, Melvin Westerman, his dogs are feist cur crosses, if I'm correct, right?
Actually, their daddy was Rusty B, which was an original mountain cur, and their mommy, to be honest, was just kind of a yard dog.
Okay.
They really didn't know what. I'd say she had a little bit of maybe farm shepherd or border collie or something in her. She was a black dog.
Gotcha.
But she basically would just run around Melvin's house, but she threw some of the greatest squirrel dogs I ever walked behind.
Nice. That's crazy.
And yeah, it was one of those fluke things that, it just worked.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny had acquired one, and he was just mopping up at the hunts. And I, being competitive, I didn't like getting beat. And so, I set my mind, I'm going to have to get better. And I had met John Stewart, and, he got me looking more into the breeding program to try to get better, and taught me a lot on, lines to breed and what to look for in that line. And he was just, I would always call him the chemist. He was just very, very aware of breedings and lines. And so I bought a little female named Candy out of Iowa off an older gentleman. And I thought, man, I finally got something, to take to town, as they would say. And I went to the Indiana State hunt, and sure enough, who do I draw? Johnny Parrott and Rosa. And she beat the brakes off of me. And I begged Johnny to sell her. He wouldn't sell her, and eventually he calls me out of the blue one day and prices her, and I drive straight to his house and purchase her. But she wasn't at his house. She was actually at Rodney Stratton's being bred to Hardwood Lake Jake.
Okay.
Which I was perfectly fine with,
Well, for the listeners, what kind of time frame is this? Like, is this late 90s, early 2000s?
I'm going to say that's, just to be honest with you, my memory is horrible. I'm going to say this is going on 20 years ago.
Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah. And, like I say, she was just a trained cur, but she was just a really good competition dog. a lot of people probably wouldn't have liked her style because, everybody wants them alone and by themselves and never look at another dog. But she was the type dog. She could tree her own squirrels, and she'd get a piece of yours too.
Yeah.
Which was,
especially back then, the whole alone thing was not super common back then. So
that's very true. Well said. We didn't really pay that much attention to it. I'd say as they do now.
Mm-hmm.
But she was just. I mean, you could take her out with friends, and she would just put squirrel after squirrel after squirrel up.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just a really nice pleasure dog and competition dog. And then, of course, we made that cross with Hardwood Lake Jake, and that produced a little dog I called Trooper. And he was, really nice dog, and I had several off of Rosa and different dogs. We didn't care about the OMCBA back then. I didn't. I didn't really even know much about the OMCBA.
Okay.
It was just, breed good to, something a little better and try to make better. And so we was fortunate to have some nice dogs like Sarge and Hammer and Trooper and Sally. Those was all great dogs that come off of Rosa, which she had tons of them. She was that little dog was bred probably 3 or 4 times before I actually purchased her.
Okay.
And we went on, done quite a bit of winning with her, and probably one of the greatest wins I ever had with her was we went to LBL. I don't know if you remember this, but they had a competition hunt that they called the Champion of Champions.
No, I don't.
You had to have at least a championship stature to be invited to the hunt.
Okay.
And that's back when Anthony Morris was doing a lot of winning with Blondie. And Blondie was a bird dog cross.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to that down at the LBL, and we was fortunate to, after 3 or 4 days of hunting, we won that Champion of Champions with Rosa.
Nice.
So that was one of the most premier hunts that I won with her. But she did a bunch of winning even before I got her.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, what did she look like?
She looked just like the Susie dog that Carl Smith had. She was kind of a mousy gray color, little bit of longer type hair, and had a Coke bottle nose. Not a very pretty dog.
Well, you just said that her mom, might have had some farm shepherd or whatever. It was just a yard dog. That's why I was just curious, like, what she actually looked like.
Yeah. She was smaller too. She wasn't. I'm gonna say she was probably under 30 pounds.
Okay.
But had a surprisingly good high pitched mouth and sat right down, and did buzz.
Mm-hmm.
Real good about, for back then. And I know you're aware of this. 20 years ago when I first started into the OMCBA, a lot of dogs didn't stay treated very good.
Yeah.
If you had a dog that would stay treed, you would do pretty good in the OMCBA. But the first actual original mountain cur hunt that I ever went to was when I went with Sniper.
Okay. When did you get Sniper in the timeline here of Rosa, her pups?
After I had raised a couple litters of Hardwood Lake Jake pups off of Rosa, I had a gentleman call me, and me and Rodney had Stratton that owned Hardwood Lake Jake had become friends and hunted together quite a bit. He was a state trooper, really good dog man, very smart, was really selective about his breeding. He wasn't just he wouldn't breed unless he really knew the dog was above average.
Yeah.
Had a gentleman call me. His name was Jeff Morgan. He was over by the Rushville, Indiana area, kind of over in Arizona. He's a farmer. He called me up and asked me if I could somehow talk to Rodney about breeding a female he had, the Hardwood Lake Jake. And I called around, and because I had never been with the female, her name was Pearl. But I called around and talked to a guy that I had hunted with quite a bit. His name was Dale Kopp. And Dale told me, he said, she's a really nice dog, Merle. Said she'll open low on the ground, but she's a nice squirrel dog.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to talk Rodney into making that cross.
Yeah.
And Jeff told me that he would give me first pick.
Nice.
And so when I went to his house, he had 4 males, 4 females. 4 was yellow with white trim, and 4 was brindle.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty neat looking cross. But I went to get a female. That's what I had on my mind. I took my kids with me. He let the females out. I picked the female I wanted, and he picked a little yellow male up that had some pink on its nose, and he was worried that pink would hinder him selling it.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, if you'll cut me a deal, I'll buy a pair, and I'll take the pink nose one. So that's what we did, and that dog become the dog at the time. I called him Sniff because he had a sniff of pink on his nose.
Yeah.
And he started really early and done really well for me. Hang on a second, I got a dog bark. Anyway, I called him Sniff, and he come on really good. And Rodney talked me into going to Jamestown to hunt, and he was 13 months old, and we went to the September hunt. And I got fortunate, and I won the whole hunt. But the funny part of the story was when I sat down to fill out his registration, I wrote down, back then I lived on Meadow Springs, and I wrote down Meadow Springs Sniff. But I had been naming a lot of my dogs off of the military, like Sarge, Troop, and different things. And so when I wrote down Sniff, I thought, if I put an ER on that, that'll make Sniper.
Yeah.
And that's how he actually got named. That sounds like a fairy tale, but that's how he actually got the name of Sniper.
Okay.
And so I won the September hunt, and then we won the Kentucky State. And then I actually sold him to Chad Harston, and Chad won the Junior World and then won the OMCBA Spring Hunt, which made him 3 trips to Jamestown, 3 wins in a row.
Nice.
I don't know that the other dog ever did that. And after he won that hunt, he actually hired me to take him out to Illinois to the PKC World Hunt,
mm-hmm.
which I did. Me and Gary Brown rode out together, and I made it to the semifinals, and I drew out with the Blondie dog and Anthony Moore. And that's probably one of the greatest hunts I've ever been on in my life. It was a shootout from the word go. And Rick Stretch was our non-hunting judge. And I lost that cast on a circle tree. But win or lose, it didn't matter, because to watch that dog work between two great dogs, and me and Anthony running behind them, calling them and laughing, and just had an unbelievable good time. Competitive, but sportsmanship at the same time.
Oh yeah.
And at the end, shook hands and, walked away with a great story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly after that, me and Gary bought Sniper back off of Chad, and I went on to win. We won 2 world, 2 national, and 27 state titles with him.
Wow. That's crazy.
So,
the first OMCBA dog you get, and it puts you on the map.
Yes. Very fortunate. Very fortunate.
I mean, not that you were new to dogs or anything, but there's a little bit of luck just in the fact that he's not even the pup that you really wanted.
No.
You're like, I'll buy him if you make me a deal. And then he ends up becoming a world champion.
Yep. And he absolutely had more heart and drive than any dog I've ever walked behind day in and day out.
Mm-hmm.
And he was equally as good on coons as he was squirrels.
Okay. That's impressive.
And we end up making him a grand squirrel, a grand knight, and a grand tree in the OMCBA, and he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. He died earlier younger in what you would call a dog's life.
Mm-hmm.
He acquired lung cancer.
Okay.
And
how old was he?
And died. I think he was around 7 years old.
That is pretty young.
Yeah. So, but he was able to, throw a lot of great offspring.
Yeah.
I won a lot of junior worlds. We won with Snipers Bouncing Tiny. We won junior world with her. Snipers Red Bud. We won junior world Snipers Viper. We won junior world Gold Tooth. We won the junior world. Trying to think what else. I know there's more than that, but just off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
And then even like grand pup, like Rage, a grand pup is. We won the junior world. We got reserve with another grand pup we called Sniper's Red Lace. We won the junior world with Sniper's Kate, which would have been a grand pup. So, he really, in my opinion, he put a mark on the OMCBA dog world.
Yeah.
As well, he left, and I still have great grand pups in my kennel from him.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
one quick question. I want to kind of rewind a little bit. Whatever happened to that his littermate sister?
She made a really nice dog. We called her Whitney.
Okay.
And I got them both started. They started real young. And John Stewart bought Whitney off of me. She was probably around 8 to 10 months old.
Mm-hmm.
And John at that time was doing a more coon hunting while he was squirrel hunting. So he coon hunted her a lot. And she was tough. She was really, really nice coon dog. And a good squirrel dog, but better coon dog.
Okay.
And John kept her for quite a while. And she was a great dog. She had one little problem. She would chew a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was from hunting her a lot in the summertime.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just genetic, but I think sometimes habits can be formed by leaving them treed a long time, and them getting hot.
Yep.
But she made a really, really top-notch dog as well.
Nice.
But Jeff Morgan was the breeder, and he went on to breed several other great dogs. Jeff, just being a farmer, not real well known, he knew what he was doing. I don't think it was no accident, or fluke, because he ended up being the breeder of Boondock too, as well.
Okay.
And the little dog that the Islands owned, that they called Wiggles, that come from Jeff Morgan as well.
Okay.
And 3 different bloodlines, 3 great dogs come from a farmer that nobody really knows of.
Yeah.
So, he knew what he was doing, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I give props to people like that. A lot of people never know of a man like Jeff Morgan that has bred some great named dogs that never gets no recognition.
Yep.
So, but we've been really, really blessed, and now we have kind of a new line of dogs, which is off of the Thunder Sport and the Toots Dale and Toots Candy, and that line of dogs that we're hunting a lot now.
Okay.
With the Major Drive Little Jack dog.
I've seen you post about that dog. I just kind of assumed that he was actually went back to sniper.
He really don't. He was one of them type dogs that I had when he was young, and he got started. Mike hunted him. Mike Powers hunted him a little bit for me, helped me with him get him started. And John had come home from a missions trip from Guatemala, and I let John have him, and he ended up getting away from John, and a guy by the name of Michael Pumphrey wind up with him. He made a really nice dog, and I started getting pups off of him, and really loved what I had, which the Major Drive Hawk dog that I won the Junior World with. He was off of Jack.
Okay.
And so I actually own him now, and I really like what I'm seeing off of him.
Nice.
A total different line of dogs, but I've always liked the Thunder Sport line of dogs.
Yeah.
Alan Frank's been a icon for the OMCBA.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Toots Dale and Toots Candy dogs, they did really well.
Mm-hmm.
So I like what I see out of them.
Mm-hmm. Now, granted, I haven't hunted a whole lot with mountain curs in quite a while, but here and there, but not a lot. But when I first got started in dogs, that's what I started with hunting, was mountain curs. A friend of mine had some, and all his stuff was off of Alan's stuff. So I definitely like the dogs that I hunted with 10, 12 years ago. And well,
they seem to have a lot of drive and good mouth,
mm-hmm.
and they're definitely going to treat, from what I see of them.
Yeah.
Which I like the streak line of dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Gary Brown, we had, we would buy streak bred pups off of Carl Smith, and we had the Connie K dog. He placed 3rd in the Junior World, which that's a pretty cool story. Me and Gary owned Connie K, Sniper's Viper, and a Sniper's Playgirl. And we had John Stewart handle Connie K, and we wind up being the final 3 in the finals of the Junior World.
That's pretty
and
cool.
Me and Gary owned all 3 dogs. So that was a cool story.
Yeah.
You don't get to do that too often in life.
Nope.
And then we I actually owned and trained Hummer's mommy,
Okay.
the Sassy Jip, and she was off of Mount Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Gary sold her to the Looney Brothers, and of course, they did great things with that cross between her and Tank.
Yep.
Produced Hummer and Festus, and of course, them two dogs has put a legendary mark on the OMCBA world.
Yeah.
But Sassy was a really, really nice dog. I mean, she was a stay put as a Walker Hound would be,
mm-hmm.
so to speak, for a cur dog. But I always liked Carl Smith's always had good dogs, in my opinion. I know he gets a lot of
mm-hmm.
a bad rap, but I mean, that man, he bred dogs before I probably ever knew what a dog was in the OMCBA.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And he's done a lot of great things for the OMCBA.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So,
definitely.
Yeah,
now,
but
I'm kind of sensing a theme here, and it kind of sounds like you like to start pups.
Yes.
And get them going, and then you tend to let them go.
Yes.
Okay, because you're like, won the junior world, and it's like, and you're like, we started this one, and then we sold it, and so I kind of was sensing that theme throughout as you were talking about all these different dogs.
Yeah, and the thing is, and I think it's between being competitive and just enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
But I set my sights, which I have for the last 15, 20 years, to try to get something better than what I've already had, and to win that junior world.
Okay.
And I hope to win it this year. Last year, I got sick, couldn't go. I don't know that I had COVID, but I had all the symptoms of COVID. And I know one thing, I couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
But I sent my buddy with my little junior dog, and he got reserve world with her and hadn't really hunted with her too many times.
Nice.
So Jason Roberts, he was good enough. Him and his boy Braxton took her for me, and they got reserve, which I was very proud of.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got a little one that's a grand pup, the Sniper, that I call Snipers, Macy.
Okay.
And I'm working on her for this coming December. So I do. I shoot my goals to, once they turn 2 years old, I'm ready to start something else.
Gotcha.
So
now,
what I do.
For the junior world, what's the age limit for that?
Under 2 years old.
That's what I thought.
Yep. So, but now it's kind of, it's getting even better, because now the USDC has got a junior world program.
Okay.
And, the LMC is opened up with Jimmy Inman,
mm-hmm.
and that's doing really good. The Legacy program, and they have a with the NSD, they have a junior program, so it gives me more than one option now, and I like that.
Yeah.
I can try, and then of course the UMCA has a junior world too.
Okay.
Which I didn't actually win it, but I sold the dog 2 weeks before the dog won it. I sold it to the guy, and he went and won the UMCA World Junior World this year. And the dog that won the Senior World, I trained him too.
Nice.
So that was nice. I mean, Kid won the Junior, and Hawk won the Senior. So
how many Junior World hunts have you won?
I believe 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
So, yeah, I've won the USDR World. Come close on the USDC. I got to the semifinals with Hummer and got beat by 50 points by Superman. and then Superman went on to lose to Johnny Rocket in the finals.
Okay.
But I was right there. I was knocking on the door with Hummer. Me and Hummer had. I mean, we was right there. It just sometimes it goes your way, and sometimes it don't.
Oh yeah.
And I've been in the finals of the Junior World 6 other times that I didn't win. You know, that I got reserve or third.
Yeah.
So, you know, I really enjoy it, and like I say, I've been blessed to be able to do it. But it takes a lot of time.
Oh yeah.
It takes a lot of time, a lot of patience.
Yep. See, I am not a pup man, so the thought of starting that many pups and every, once you get one going and then just start selling it and starting another one, that's like nightmare inducing. I want one. I want that 2-year-old.
Yeah. And that's what's great. That's why, that's what makes the world great. You know, one man likes to do one thing, another man likes to do another, and it works out good for guys like you. There's a lot of guys out there that call me and say, hey, I know you're going to sell it after the Junior World. Just give me a chance at it.
Yeah.
And so, I've been fortunate to be able to do that. And meeting, I met Gary Brown. I do need to probably tell this. Again, I met Gary Brown through the dogs, probably 20 years ago plus.
Okay.
And he just called me one day and asked me about a dog, and I called her Dial In, and we ended up hunting together, and he bought her off of me, and we've been friends and partners in dogs ever since.
Nice.
And he has taught me, like John taught me on the breeding side of the dogs, Gary taught me on how to really analyze and break down a dog and make that dog better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a real dog man. He's been unbelievable successful in the beagle dog world, but he loves the squirrel dogs as well. And we've been, like I say, we've partnered on dogs for 20 plus years and never had an ill word or a hard feeling. And that's hard to do.
Yeah, it is.
But he taught me. We'd go out and he'd say, hey, this is what we need to work on, and I'd be like, I never saw that. He'd say, yeah, we need to fix that. Or, hey, this dog's good at this, or, and he taught me to watch more and to be more, having my eyes open and don't take it personal because that dog didn't do as good that day. They're just dogs. And if you're going to train one, you have to realize dogs have good days and dogs have bad days, just like me and you.
Mm-hmm.
And some days they'll look like they can't be beat, and other days they look like they couldn't win if you tried. So Gary really helped me to analyze dogs better and made me a better dog trainer for it.
Yeah.
So
with starting a lot of pups, do you raise any dogs or you just buy pups?
I do more buying pups.
Mm-hmm.
I do occasionally, every 3 years, I may raise a litter of my own. But for me, it's easier just to purchase a pup and get the bloodline, that I want. Or I just recently drove down to Virginia and picked up a Hummer pup, little female, off of Shannon Looney.
Nice.
They, of course, Hummer's been dead, but
mm-hmm.
they had collected him.
Yep.
And did a breeding, which is actually my little Jack dog's sister, Ruby, litter mate sister. they bred her, and I was on the list, and they was nice enough to let me have the only female that she had.
Very nice.
And so I drove down and picked her up. So I've been blessed to, be able to get my name out there to where I acquire some really good females. But as far as being the breeder, I'm not really per se the breeder on the majority of them.
Okay.
I just happen to, pick up the right pup.
Yeah.
So that's.
Well, from a breeder standpoint, every breeder wants their pups to end up in the right hands. So knowing that you like pushing pups and that your goal is to win a junior world hunt as a breeder, it's a no-brainer if you're interested, because it's like that helps them get, helps them and helps their male dog, their stud dog, and their female look better.
Right.
So
yeah, and I hope people see it that way.
If
mean?
they don't, they're not thinking straight.
Yeah, I like I say, I do my very best to give that young dog every opportunity to get everything out of it that I can.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a lot of great dog men out there and great trainers, but there's a lot of things you can do to mess a young dog up.
Oh yeah.
And I always, I get a lot of people call me and say, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? And I always take them to my kids and sports. And I say, I try to relate that pup just like I would my son or my daughter out there playing ball in the backyard. If I take that 5 or 6 year old child out there 6 days, 7 days a week and play pass with it and catch and hit, guess what? It's going to start not liking it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to start saying, you know what? I'd rather do something else today, Dad.
Yep.
And if I don't listen to that, then what I do is I push them away from something I want them to like. And I feel the same way people do with, I see people get on and say, my pup started at 3 months old, and I cringe because I think, man, it's a 3-month-old puppy.
Yeah.
And if you don't treat it right, you're going to do it more damage than good, because it is that wonder pup that starts at 3 months old. It's still a 3-month-old puppy.
Yep.
And it needs to be treated. Let it be a puppy. Let it mature. Let it grow. And, let it have fun with it. Don't, if I go out and make playing baseball a job for my kids, they ain't going to want to play baseball.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, I think I learned that the hard way with my oldest son. We played baseball pretty much year round with travel ball and league ball and, and going to pitching coaches and batting coaches and hitting the batting cages. And, like every dad, you aspire for your son to be that MLB player, or that NBA player, or, NFL player. And when he got in high school, and I think it was his junior or senior year, he come to the bedroom and said, Dad, I handed him my jersey. And, of course, I think he did part of it for the right reason, but part of it, I think I just burned him out.
Yeah.
And so when my middle son played, I changed things up. Hey, do you want to do this? If not, we don't have to do it. And now with my youngest son, I'm even more lenient about it. Hey, if you want to do it, do it. If you don't worry about it.
Yep.
And, he'll be a senior this year and he's still playing. So hopefully, I learned from that, but I take that back to people with their dogs too.
Oh yeah.
You have to know when to back off of that puppy. You have to know when to give it a break. I think a young dog under the age of 10 to 12 months old don't need to be hunted no more than 2 to 3 days a week. And a lot of people would disagree with that, and that's fine. I mean, that's everybody's right to their own opinion. But to me, I want them to like it.
Yeah.
I want them to enjoy it and do it, because they want to do it. If they start getting tired and their puppy muscles can't keep up, then guess what? I start getting mad. I start getting aggravated. I get disappointed. And then that ego gets in the way where that pup's doing the very best it can. It's just tired. I hope that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And I think, like you said, somebody might disagree with you, but once again, we circle back to your track record here, and I think it's really hard to disagree with you. Yeah,
I had a good friend. He had a young Walker dog, and she was fancy. 4 months old, she would run and tree her own tunes and do it night after night. But I told him, I said, "You're pushing her too hard," and he didn't listen. Excuse me. And sure enough, she backed down. She quit him.
Yep.
And he called me up and he said, "What do I do?" And I said, "Put her up." He said, "Man, I got this certain, pup derby coming up, super stakes under a year old.
Yep.
She could win it." And I said, "She ain't going to win nothing because right now she's done." And he listened. He put the dog up for 30 days and brought her back out, and she'd come back into it. Nice. And end up going out to be, a great young dog. And, she just, to me, she got burnt out.
Yeah.
Just overdid it.
Yep. I don't know. And I think that's part of the problem with the super early starting. I mean, it's more in the hound competition than it is with squirrel dogs, but, that PKC, under a year old, it's like, that's asking a lot. Especially when you factor in, how old that dog really is mentally, and when you especially when you compare it to like people years, and I've heard different things, but you're looking from anywhere from 7 to like 13 or something is what I've kind of different ranges I've heard. So like you're asking us somewhere, let's just say shoot the middle and say like a 10-year-old, to do what you expect a college athlete to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well said.
So,
it's once you put it in perspective, and that's like with me too. A lot of people ask me about dogs' tree styles. A lot of people want these cur dogs to be 2 feet on the tree, and they have a lot of tricks, and I have tricks too. I mean, I could force a dog to put his feet on the tree, but to me, it's just like going back to sports again. If you've got a kid that's comfortable, don't change it.
Yeah.
And it's the same way I look at it with young dogs. If that dog's comfort zone is sitting on its rear end at the bottom of the tree or standing on all fours, that's where that dog is comfortable. And the more comfortable the dog is, to me, the longer he'll stay.
Yep.
Now, if I force him to get in an uncomfortable position, it's just to please me, to make me feel like I like that better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's beneficial. So for me, I rather just that dog to be comfortable. And, a lot of guys say, well, the only thing I got against that dog is he should have his feet on the tree. Well, he's not a walker dog. He's a cur dog. So
Like
standing at the bottom of the tree watching the timber is his comfort zone.
Like you said, 20 years ago, it's hard to get one to sit there for 5 minutes. So just be happy he's staying.
Yes, 100%. 100%. Speaking of a dog, I gotta mention this dog, and we had a dog. Me and Gary. Gary actually purchased the dog from down south from Chris Gilmer, and we called him Goldtooth. And when Gary bought that dog, he called me and he said, "I can buy this young dog." And at the time, I think he was 11 or 12 months old, and Gary purchased him and had a dog hauler bring him to my house. And he told me, he said, "If you'll, he's already started, but if you'll get him finished out, I'll give you half of him." And I got him, and that dog was one of the hardest dogs I ever worked with to get to stay treed. He could tree squirrels as fast as anything I ever walked behind, but he had the happiest feet you ever seen on a dog. I mean, he'd be treed on one, he already had his mind on treeing another.
Yep.
And it took me 30 days to get that dog to just settle down. But I'm telling you, once he did, we had a lot of fun with that dog.
Oh, I'm sure.
We took him to the NKC World, which was the Claude Thomas hunt.
Yep.
And we won that world hunt. And then we ended up winning another world. And then we took him to the junior world and we won the junior world. And then Greg Maynard purchased him, and I think a week or two later won the USDR world with him.
Nice.
And I think that dog's went on to win 7 or more world titles. But to see a dog that was that excitable, I mean, he was just a fun dog.
Yeah.
You know, he was hard to get settled down, but once he got dialed in and realized, you know, that if he stayed, he got rewarded, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
He put it together, but you know, and there was no limit to that dog. And me and Gary, out of all the dogs, and we've owned a bunch of them, you know, Rage and Red Bud and Big Play Ray and Sniper and all of them. The one dog me and him always go back to and say, "Man, we wish we wouldn't have sold that one." It was Goldtooth. Because that dog Eric.
I guess that answers my question. I was going to ask you, what's your favorite dog?
He was, as far as competition dog, he was my favorite.
Okay.
As far as just having a lot of fun with, day in and day out, and low maintenance, was Sniper.
Okay.
But as far as competition and just exciting, it would have to be Goldtooth. He was just, that dog was exciting.
Yeah.
But he was hard headed, and you had to work with him during the week, if that makes sense. You know, he was something if you let up, if you took your foot off the gas, he would make you pay for it. And but yeah, it's been a great 30 years of competition hunting, and a lot of, and I think the greatest part of it, and you'll agree with this, is all the friends I've met along the way.
Oh yeah.
And true friends, not just people, acquaintances. You know, I've got guys that I could call any day and they would come and help me.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, you know, and a lot of people don't understand, you know, men in the dog world and their obsession with all this, but at the end of the day, just all the friends you meet, the good guys, and the true, genuine friendships you make out of it, it makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely.
So, anything else?
No, I mean, unless you got some good stories. I mean, I'm a big fan of stories, so.
As far as hunting stories go, I mean, some of my greatest is just remembering being a boy walking behind my dad in that old Coleman lantern and putting the aluminum foil on the back side of it, so he wouldn't blind us boys in behind him. And I had a brother, James, and James always liked to walk out in front. And Dad would always tell him, James, is dangerous. You need to stay behind. Let me lead because I got the light. And James was a little bullheaded. And I remember walking one night, sure enough, James got out ahead of us all. And we heard a scream, and he had fell over an embankment right down into a creek, down into the bottom, and it was just a ledge, drop off. And he slid. He didn't get hurt, of course, but it just, could you imagine just be walking along and the ground leave you,
Yeah.
No. And we all,
as you say this, I'm thinking of the one place I hunt, and it's literally like that. It is like probably an 8-foot drop off down to this little creek, and it's not much of a creek. So when you hit the bottom, you're hitting rock. Yeah, there's some water there, but
this was probably, when you're a kid, everything looks bigger. But just thinking back, I'm going to say it was probably 12 to 15 feet.
Jeez.
And we all knew it was there. I mean, we knew the woods. Mm-hmm. But when you're walking at night, and you're going to a dog treat, and you're not really, I guess, paying attention of your surroundings. But it was a good life lesson for, my brother, my dad, when we went around and got him, Dad said, that's why you stay behind the light. Yeah. Let me, but my dad was just a really, really good man, a great father, a godly man, and he was a great dog trainer. I mean, people would come all around and buy Dad's hounds, and they'd never even try them. They'd just say, well, you tell me what it is, Clarence, and there you go. But I remember when Uncle Ed and Dad had an old blue English female, and Uncle Ed had a red bone he called Reddy, and our blue English dog, we called her Old Blue. We wasn't real popular with names, just
yeah.
But just to hear two 70-some-year-old men out there, being competitive brothers, 70-some years old, out there saying, there's Blue. No, that's Reddy, and oh, no, Reddy struck first. No, that was Blue, remembering those times as kids, and it puts that fire in your belly. You want to aspire to have a great dog, and my dad, he'd teach you a lot of lessons with them dogs too, and any picture you see of me, that my mom, she's 94, still living, and she'll go back and show pictures, and about every picture you see of me as a boy, I'm holding a Walker pup or a Cur pup, and
nice.
A great childhood to be able to, we worked hard, on a dairy. You get up and you milk cows before you go to school, and you come home, you milk cows before you do your schoolwork. But to have that luxury of being able to run the woods and hunt dogs and learn from dog men, men that really love the sport and have that freedom as a child. And people say, they was drugged as kids. Yeah, I was drugged to church, and I was taught, to treat people the right way and to be fair and honest. And I'm glad to have that kind of dad and mom that taught me that.
Mm-hmm. Your upbringing is, very picture perfect American upbringing, and I think a lot of guys that either have had that or wish they had that. I know it. I wished I would have grown up with woods to run around in and a bunch of dogs, and that would have been my ideal childhood.
Yeah, it was really good, and out of all of us, there was 13 of us children. I was number 13.
Oh wow!
12 brothers and sisters, and my mom was 41 and dad was 53 when I was born, so I was the last of what they call the baker's dozen. But out of all the children, I was the only one that took the love of the dogs, and still hunt the dogs.
Interesting.
So that's kind of strange thinking. Now I do have my mom's nephew, my first cousin. I believe he's the one that has talked to you, Lee Fairchild.
Yeah.
He hunts squirrel dogs, and he hunted rabbit dogs, and he even done a lot with training professional frisbee dogs.
Interesting.
But he's been real successful in dogs, but we're the only two out of a large family between my mom's family and my dad's family. We're the only two that really took up the love of hunting from our family.
Yeah.
You would think more, and like with my children, my middle son did for a while, but after he got married and got a child and has to work a lot, he's backed away from the squirrel dogs. But he used to hunt with me quite a bit, but he don't get the chance to do it as much anymore.
Well,
so
hopefully for him, when life settles down a little bit, you'll be able to get him a good one.
That's what I hope, or maybe one of my grandsons.
Yep.
I'd love to pass this on. So
definitely.
I really appreciate you having me on. I hope
I appreciate you coming.
To help somebody out there. And like I say, my phone is always open if somebody has a training need and I can help them out in any way, or they just want to talk dogs. I'm always free to do that.
Awesome. I'm sure somebody will take you up on that, and I might, including me. Like I said, I'm not a pup man, and I've got one out here in the kennel, so I might have some questions.
Hey, call me anytime. I love to do it. That's part of my life.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time and talking to me tonight.
Same here. Thank you, Mr. Sheets. You have a blessed day.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep them talking in the timber.